Hello and welcome to Sonic Lore, History of Mobius. In my previous retelling of the Archie Sonic story, I retold the origins of Bunny Rabbit in Super Sonic. Now, it's time for some Sonic Spinball. Sonic's first adventure began when he was leading the Freedom Fighters into a surprise attack against Robotnik. When they reached Robotnik's factory, everyone stopped when they saw it was closed. Sonic read a note on the door from Robotnik that stated that he had moved his base of operations to deep inside the Mount Mobius volcano. Sally said it was a trap, but Sonic went to the location anyways. Sonic soon arrived at Mount Mobius. He noticed that rails were coming out of the volcano, but before he could figure out what they were for, Robotnik activated a flipper and caused Sonic to fall into the lava. Sonic briefly jumped in the lava, but he managed to get onto the rails and he figured out that they were like pinball rails. As Sonic headed inside the volcano, Robotnik claimed that Sonic would meet his end in the Veg-O-Fortress. He then said that his new machine, the Veg-O converter, would roboticize all of Mobius. Meanwhile, Sonic was looking around the area and was concerned about the amount of toxic waste in the caves. He also worried about the potential danger in the polluted waters. Unbeknownst to him, the mechanical dragon, Rexon, waited for him. Rexon ambushed Sonic from behind and took him to meet the area's boss, Scorpius. Sonic easily beat the two by bumping into their heads until they shut down. He then continued further on. Robotnik was angry that Sonic got past the first area, but he believed that Sonic wouldn't get past the next level. Sonic reached the next area and took a ride in a freight car. As Sonic rode the cart, he met two kangaroos who warned him about the Pharaons. The Pharaons soon surrounded Sonic, but he took them out with ease. He made fun of Robotnik, causing the tyrant to become furious. Suddenly, Sonic heard the cries of some animals in distress. But before he could find out where it was coming from, Robotnik activated a flipper, which sent Sonic to the next level. Sonic landed on his face, but he was where the captive animals were being held. Sonic was about to free the animals, but a man-eating plant snuck up behind him. Sonic avoided the plant and saw that there were a dozen more in the room. He dodged them all and went straight to a room with a sign that said Robotnik was in it. Sonic was sealed in the room, and that's when he figured out that it was a trap. Robotnik appeared on a monitor and told Sonic that he had almost made it through his Veg-O-Fortress. He then activated a springboard that launched Sonic out of the volcano. Sonic was about to fall into the lava, but Tails saved him. Sonic believed that he would return to the volcano one day, but he and Tails headed back to the Great Forest for the time being. Days later, Tails made a seesaw. Tails asked Sonic if he wanted to try it out, but Rotor came rushing in before he could. Rotor jumped on the seesaw and sent Tails flying. Tails hit the ceiling and got his head stuck in it for a bit, but he managed to free himself. He nearly fell to the ground, but Sonic caught him. While Tails was falling, a piece of paper fell along with him and hit Rotor's head. Rotor picked up the paper and opened it to reveal a map. Rotor thought it was connect the dots, but Sonic corrected him and said that it was a map to his uncle's most important treasure. No one understood what was so great about the treasure, since money held no worth since Robotnik took over. Sonic reminded the gang that his uncle was a great inventor and said that he might have hidden something that could help them defeat Robotnik. Soon afterward, everyone followed the map. Sally was worried that Robotnik would spot them, but Sonic was willing to take the risk. They soon arrived at the Mobius National Park, but they were horrified when they saw that Robotnik had ruined it with his toxic waste. Sonic and his friends continued onwards, but they were unaware that some SWAT bots overheard them and reported their conversation to Robotnik. Later, the group was closing in on the treasure, but Sally said that the chemicals were getting to her. Sonic told her that he would finish following the map. He used his super speed to reach the spot where the treasure was buried. While Sonic was busy with the treasure, Tails noticed a flower had managed to survive in the polluted air. He flew over to it, but it was suddenly vaporized. Robotnik revealed himself and thanked Sonic for finding Chuck's treasure. He then claimed he would capture everyone and turned them into robots as he shot at them with his ray gun. Everyone ran, and Sally suggested that they run in different directions so that Robotnik couldn't catch them. Sonic agreed with her, and the group split. Robotnik watched them run in different directions and was excited about hunting them down. He sent each of his badniks and SWAT bots to capture the freedom fighters. Sonic hid in a tree stump and heard Robotnik yell out that the pollution would kill him and his friends since they weren't robots. Sonic agreed with him and knew that he had to figure out a way to use the environment against Robotnik. After Robotnik left, Sonic rushed to find his friends. The first person he found was Tails, who was about to be killed by Burrowbot. Sonic grabbed Burrowbot's attention by mocking him. Burrowbot became angry and charged at Sonic, but Sonic dodged him and made him pierce through an acid tank. The acid in the tank melted Burrowbot's drill. Suddenly, Sonic heard Rotor yelling for help. Sonic rushed over to Rotor and hid behind a pile of dirt. He imitated Robotnik's voice and tricked the SWAT bots to release Rotor. He also had the SWAT bots walk into a puddle of toxic ooze. Sonic immediately made his way to Sally and saw that Buzz Bomber was attacking her. Sonic rushed to her aid and grabbed her wrist. Sally said she couldn't go on, but Sonic told her that she didn't have to. Sonic made Buzz Bomber angry by mocking him, causing him to swoop down at them. Before Buzz Bomber could hit them, Sonic and Sally used some spilled oil to slide down the mountain, causing Buzz Bomber to miss and crash against the mountain. After Sonic and Sally made their escape, Sonic said he didn't see Robotnik anywhere and decided to rejoin the rest of the group. Soon afterward, they went back to where the treasure was buried and dug it up. Sally told Sonic that he earned the treasure for defeating the Badniks and that doing so was a great feat. Sonic thanked her, but he remembered something when she mentioned feet. Suddenly, Robotnik swooped in and stole the treasure. As Robotnik flew away, Sally asked Sonic if he was going to get the treasure back from him. Sonic said he wouldn't, since it wasn't as important to him as it was to his uncle. Everyone was confused by Sonic's statement, so he told them that he recalled what his uncle thought of as his treasure after Sally said feed. He then told everyone that they should head back to Knothole before Robotnik found out what was in the chest. Meanwhile, Robotnik opened the chest and found out that Chuck had kept a pair of Sonic's bronze baby shoes. Sometime later, in Robotropolis, Robotnik received a visit from a SWAT bot with Crabmeat in custody. The SWAT bot informed Robotnik that it discovered Crabmeat in possession of some comic books. Robotnik was outraged that one of his robots had broken one of his rules. Robotnik reminded Crabmeat of the punishment that awaited him, which was to scrap him for spare parts. Crabmeat frantically told Robotnik that he only read the comics for him. He then claimed that he thought Robotnik could use superpowered robots to defeat Sonic and the Freedom Fighters. Robotnik thought about how powerful robots would require a lot of parts, so he used Crabmeat and the SWAT bot to make them. A few days later, Robotnik was broadcasting on television outside of the Great Forest. He was about to make a speech, but he was interrupted when Sonic knocked him over. Sonic had come to stop Robotnik from destroying the forest, but Robotnik was expecting Sonic's arrival. He pulled out a flashlight signal, which called his latest creation, Botman. Botman came swinging out of nowhere and kicked Sonic. Sonic became annoyed and ran towards Botman at 250 miles per hour, but instead of destroying him on impact, Sonic bounced off of Botman's chest. While Sonic was unconscious, Robotnik ordered his SWAT bot to film his triumph over his nemesis. Robotnik's triumph was short-lived when Sonic revealed that he was faking his injuries. He jumped at Botman with a sonic spin, and the two opponents clashed. When the smoke cleared, it turned out that Botman was the winner. Robotnik celebrated his victory over Sonic, but Crabmeat pointed out the pile of robot parts lying next to them. Robotnik took a look at the parts and recognized them as the components he used to build Botman. Crabmeat stated that Botman had been gutted out, and that's when Sonic revealed that Crabmeat was correct. Robotnik and Crabmeat were surprised that Sonic had survived. They were also shocked that Botman was nothing but an empty shell. Sonic explained that he used his super speed to disassemble Botman and then posed him to irritate Robotnik. Sonic told Robotnik to admit defeat, but Robotnik revealed that he used Crab Meat's comics to make more robots. He ordered his swap bots to bring in the next robot and claimed it was the most vicious one. However, it turned out there was a miscommunication that caused them to send a wool Virgo-bot. Robotnik was angered at the blunder, but he didn't give up. Instead, he summoned a giant robot named Spawn Mower to cut down the forest. Sonic figured out that the robot stopped every few seconds and used the opportunity to unplug the giant robot. Sonic then pushed Spawn Mower off of a cliff. Robotnik kept sending more robots to fight Sonic, but Sonic dealt with each of them with ease. Once the last robot was defeated, Sonic was ready to deal with Robotnik. However, before he could, he slipped on some oil. Robotnik used the opportunity to run away with Crab Meat. Later, Sonic had dinner with his friends. Sonic's last adventure happened on one sunny day. Sonic began his day by strumming a note on his guitar and outracing it down a hill. Tails witnessed it and praised Sonic for his speed. Tails said he hadn't heard a guitar in a long time, but Sally reminded him that Robotnik had banned music and singing. Rotor asked Sonic to play his guitar again, and Sonic gladly did. One of the music notes from Sonic's guitar traveled to Robotropolis and reached Robotnik's ears, causing him to scream. Snively entered the room and apologized for interrupting what he assumed was his uncle singing. Robotnik grabbed Snively and corrected him. He then told Snively about the musical note he heard earlier. Robotnik hung Snively out of the window and ordered him to listen to the music that was playing outside. Snively questioned who the culprit could be, and Robotnik figured it was Sonic. Robotnik said he wanted to get his hands on Sonic, so Snively offered a solution with his newest device. It was a machine that could shrink things to miniature size. Snively informed Robotnik that the effect of the device would wear out in an hour, but Robotnik said that was all the time he needed to destroy Sonic. Robotnik took Snively to his Freedom Fighter Finder and claimed that it would find Sonic and his group if they left the Great Forest. Snively began singing to the tune outside, which enraged Robotnik, and he demanded that Snively give him the shrinking device. Later on, Sonic and his friends went to the abandoned concert hall. Sonic told his friends that he found his guitar inside the building and that there were more instruments inside. Everyone was excited about playing in a band, so they rushed inside the building. When they entered the concert hall, Antoine and Sally talked about how run down the place was, but Sonic told them that the instruments were in the orchestra pit. Before they could go in any further, they were zapped by something. Sonic questioned what it was, and that's when Robotnik spoke from the shadows and said that he shrunk the Freedom Fighters. Sonic wanted to know who was talking, and that's when Robotnik came out and claimed that he would vacuum up all the Freedom Fighters into his portable roboticizer. As he attempted to vacuum the Freedom Fighters, they held onto a rug for their dear lives. Sonic tried to run away from Robotnik, but he stopped when he almost ran into a cardboard box, which gave him an idea. Sonic used his Sonic Spin to cut a hole in the box, thus letting loose all of the papers in it. Robotnik's machine vacuumed up the papers and became clogged. While Robotnik was distracted, Sonic led his friends into the concert hall to hide from him. Robotnik pursued them and threatened to vacuum the entire concert hall to find them. Everyone was worried about the situation, but Sally noticed that Sonic was missing. Sonic appeared in front of Robotnik and goaded the tyrant to chase him. Robotnik chased after Sonic, but lost sight of him when Sonic hid behind the instruments. Robotnik accidentally wrecked his machine by crashing into the orchestra pit. Sonic mocked Robotnik, but Robotnik quickly recovered and sucked Sonic into another portable roboticizer. Robotnik was about to turn Sonic into a robot, but the device was knocked out of his hand by a violin bow that the Freedom Fighters shot. The Freedom Fighters continued shooting at Robotnik until he fell flat on his back. Robotnik said he would crush Sonic's friends, but before he could, the effects of the shrinking machine wore off and the Freedom Fighters returned to their normal sizes. Rotor was happy that they were back to their original size, but Sally pointed out that Sonic was still trapped in the roboticizer. Luckily, the shrinking machine's effect wore off on Sonic too, and he busted out of the machine. Everyone ganged up on Robotnik and tried to force him to leave the concert hall. Robotnik proclaimed he wouldn't run and pressed a button on his wrist. He told the freedom fighters that he called in his badniks and it would only take them a few minutes to surround the area. He laughed as he said he would have Sonic and his friends blow up the concert hall once they returned into robots. Sonic picked up his guitar, causing Robotnik to beg Sonic not to play it. Sonic and his friends played their instruments, making Robotnik run out of the concert hall screaming. After Robotnik left, Sonic was concerned about the forces Robotnik sent to the concert hall. Rotor told him that Robotnik had dropped a shrinking device, which gave Sonic an idea. They used it to shrink all of Robotnik's badniks and sent them back to Robotropolis. And that's it for this part of Sonic lore, History of Mobius. If you enjoyed this video, then please sub, comment, and like for more. Thank you.